Wholesale Hotline. I'm Brent Daniels.
I'm Jamil Damji.
And I'm Jerry Norton.
And I'm Morby.
Every week we bring you the best information on real estate investing.
Be sure to participate in the comments.
And subscribe.
Wholesale Hotline! All right. Welcome, everybody, to Wholesale Hotline. Episode number, whatever this is, 200 and something. Excited to be here with you guys. You got Jerry Norton solo tonight. Flying solo. Let's see. Brent's with family in Massachusetts. Jamil is on the road to Calgary, Canada. And Pace is on the road to Coeur d'Alene to hang out with Tony Robbins. So if you know Pace, that shouldn't be a surprise. But I'm here at my Montana lake house and going to be handling the show today. So welcome, everybody. Go ahead and let us know in the comments where you're from. And let's see what you guys are up to. And really, guys, I think I'm just going to spend the hour and a half we have together really just diving into the comments, really going over Q&A. Not very often do we just hammer that really, really hard and try to get to as many questions as we can. So I think this would be a great opportunity to do that, and I'll do the best I can. So again, welcome everybody to the show. We've been doing this now for some time. It's been one of my favorite parts of the week. I heard last week was a banger. I was on the road to come here to Montana, so I missed last week. But Paige, Jamil, and Brent said it was a really awesome show with like over 1,000 people were watching, so it was pretty cool. Okay, so guys, if you've got questions, things you're working on, need help with, anything I can talk about, I would love to take this time now to do that. Good to see Mark Gabriel. Mark's my partner in Tulsa. It was fun. I was talking to Mark this morning about a student deal that looks like maybe a 20K assignment or so. So it's been fun with Mark. We're on, I think Mark told me, contract 45 for the year. So pretty cool to do that out in Tulsa. If you guys are in Tulsa, hit us up. We'd love to JV with you, look at your deals, whatever we can do to help you. We've got quite a presence there. Okay, so Khalil says, Jerry, explain the 555 method. Yeah, this I'll try to do this as brief as I can. I do have some great videos that really break this down. I call it the 555 method because it's an agent model, so it's working with agents directly. And I call it 555 because there's 5 different touching points that we want to do daily with real estate agents. So let's take the first 5, and the first 5 would be what I call the sniper approach. And the sniper approach is when you contact agents that have listed properties actively for sale that are distressed. So you're going to set up your searches. I show you how to do this on Zillow, Redfin. You can do it on PropWire. We have on-market data in there. Really cool. You can set filters. Those are some free methods. If you have access to MLS, you can look there as well. But the idea behind the sniper approach is you're going to identify distressed properties listed for sale, and you're going to call those agents directly and make an offer. So you want to do 5 of those a day. Okay, so that's the first 5. The second 5 is just basic agent outreach. You're going to reach out to 5 agents in your market. Doesn't matter if they have something listed, doesn't matter anything. Just if they're in your market and they're an agent, you want to talk to them. And you're basically calling and saying, hey, I'm an investor looking for deals. You got anything coming up? Anything I can help you with? When you come across a distressed property on a seller appointment, let me come in and provide a cash offer. And it's just getting out there to agents in your market through outreach. So 5 of those a day. And then the third 555, the third 5 is just follow up. So you're going to call 5 agents that you've previously spoken to and just touch base with them. The agent model is very much a front and center thing. If you stay front and center with agents, they're going to remember you. And when they do get that distressed property, you're the one they're going to call. Whoever they remember most is who they're going to call. So if you're following up every week or so, then you stay at the front of the line. And so that's 15 of those a day. 5 listed, we call that sniper. 5 outreach, I call that shotgun or machine gun. You're going to try to get all the agents. And then 5 follow-ups, which is like what I call reload. So 555, that's 15 touch points a day with agents. Takes you about 3 hours on average to do that. So you can do even more if you have more time. But if you're consistent with that 555 method, my promise to you is that in about 30 days or so, you will get a deal. And if you stay consistent with it, you'll get to a point where you're doing 3 to 5 deals a month in time, not right away, but in time, if you're consistent. Okay. What's great about it is it's free, right? It doesn't cost you anything other than your time to call agents and to work the agent model. So it's a very, very powerful strategy when you're new and you don't have marketing budgets and you can't spend money on the high intent leads like pay-per-click and other things. So as you're getting started, it's, I think, one of the best places to get going. Okay. So that's the 555 method. Hope that answered your question. Let me see if there's any follow-ups to that. If you have any follow-ups to that, let me know. But let me go back here. Awesome. I mean, man, you guys are really blowing up the comments. Mark, tell us about your sweet tan. More like sunburn. I've been out in the sun a lot since we got to Montana. I'm usually really good about sunscreen, but I had a hat on and figured I was okay, but been completely, Pace helped me. We completely cut down all the brush and weeds in our backyard here, going back to the lake. So been outside a lot, boating a lot. So yeah, I got a pretty bad sunburn. But that's what you do in the summer, I guess. Okay. What's the best way to get phone numbers from addresses? Monster 3 Kit. I can't pull up the comments, by the way, guys. I'm just looking at the comments here. The best way to get phone numbers. Well, you can skip trace and get phone numbers. I mean, that's really the best way to get phone numbers is if you have a list, then you can go ahead and skip trace that list, get the phone numbers, and now you can do your cold outreach. You can cold call and text those leads. There's lots of places that offer that. You can do it right on PropWire, my software. We have some really cool packages. We're rolling out a new promo right now, or coming out pretty soon. But you can buy skip tracing in bulk, cost you very, very little to do that. And then you can run your list on PropWire. You can search and download for free, skip trace it for pennies. And now you have your list ready to call. I don't know if you guys have been noticing, but I've put out some content recently about how cold calling is back because this, I mean, better than before, because there was a recent court case in Arizona where the courts ruled that cold calling sellers where we offer to buy properties does not violate the TCPA laws because we're offering to buy, not offering to sell a service or product. So we don't qualify under those telemarketing laws, which means we can ignore the do not call list and we can cold call. So it's really, really exciting. It's a big win for the wholesale industry, and we need a win right now with all this other regulation and stuff. So pretty excited about that. If you guys go to my channel and look at the last couple of videos I've done, I talk about that court case. And then also I did a video that talks about, what it takes cold calling to get to, 3 deals a month and what that looks like, the numbers, the breakdown, the cost, and so on. So for those of you guys that are interested in that low cost marketing, cold calling and texting is a great solution. It's a great marketing channel, especially if you implement overseas VAs to do the initial cold calls and you just take the warm leads that they generate. Very inexpensive model and works. So, check that out, guys. Hope you guys are excited about that. By the way, leave a comment. Who's back on the phone since they found out about that ruling in Arizona? Let me know if you guys are excited again for cold calling. Okay. Anthony says, "Hey Jerry, I'm in SoCal. How are you running your flip numbers for bigger markets like LA, New York, etc.?" Yeah. So whatever market you're in, be LA, San Diego, New York, any of your hot markets like Arizona, Las Vegas, Tampa, if you're in a very competitive, what I call a hot market, a very transactional market, lots going on. Any of your sand states fall into that category. Those markets typically have strong demand. There's a strong buyer demand, lots of flippers. And what you're seeing is your ARV formulas are much higher. So you need to learn what that is in your market. Remember, wholesaling is nothing more than what are the buyers paying less my wholesale fee. And every market's different. So for example, I was talking to Hugh Boy, one of my students in Atlanta, and what Hugh does, which I think is genius, is he wholesales at a high level and he goes back and he looks at all of his data post assignment. So after he assigns the deal and he talks to his buyers and he reverse engineers what formula they're buying at. And last I talked to him, this may have adjusted a little. He said that they're buying on average at 76% of ARV, less repairs. So having that data and knowing real time, and he's adjusting real time, knowing that real time, he's able to make adjustments on his offers on the fly because he knows what the buyers are doing. Now, what if you don't have data like that, like Hugh does, because he's doing $1 million a year or so in revenue? The other way to do that is just get really close to two people, active cash buyers in your market and other wholesalers. So like if you're in Tulsa and you reach out to Mark Gabriel and you say, Mark, what's the formula that's working today right now? Mark will tell you, well, we're at X numbers where we're moving deals right now today. And that's one way that you can learn what the formula should be at any given time. And I mean, you can go down to Detroit and they might be buying at 60% of ARV because it's a low class, it's a class C, D market. Whereas if you go to a class A market, it's very high. You're going to see probably closer to 80, 82% in some markets, even today. So, to answer your question, really, Anthony, anything goes is the right answer is it's changing every day. And you need to find that out by getting close to the players in your market, which are active buyers. Hey, what are you buying at? What's your formula today? And other wholesalers. Hey, what are you moving deals at? What number are buyers at today? And if those people will share that with you, then you can get a really good insight into where you need to be adjusting. If you don't adjust, guys, constantly, then what's going to happen is you're either overpaying and leaving money on the table, or your offers are too low and you're not getting deals. So you want to find the sweet spot to where you can hit your margins and still do deals and bring deals competitively to buyers. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's go. Hey, questions. Why don't you guys Subto in New York City? I mean, New York City is just a brutal market. It's really hard to be successful there. Very strict laws. Tenant laws are crazy. You pay pretty high tax when you exit deals, your sale tax when you sell. And it's just overall a pretty challenging market. What you find is most New York City investors, they go to Jersey or they get upstate or they do virtual. They kind of get out of that market. Now, it's not saying you can't. It's not saying that there aren't people there doing it, but you do introduce a lot of challenge there. And there are definitely, easier fish to fry in other markets. So that's why a lot of people move out of that. Okay. Looking sharp with the Patriot hat. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know, but I collect American flag hats. I get most of my hats at gas stations. That's where I got this one and pretty much all of them. I don't know why, but gas stations have the best American flag hats. So I probably have over 100 different American flag hats. So it's not just a 4th of July thing. It's kind of an all the time thing. Okay. Mark says, Geraldo, the best one is whichever you commit to using. I'm more important to be. Oh, I think this was answering about a dialer maybe. Yeah, just commit to something and stick with it. Okay, so Abel says, Jerry, I'm doing agent outreach. It seems like a lot of agents have been contacted in my market and they're just exhausted by the wholesaler outreach. Any tips for me? Well, welcome to the industry. I mean, that's normal. If you're basing your ability to be successful on if there's any competition or low or high competition, you've already lost the game. You've lost the battle. I mean, every market has wholesalers. Every market you're going to be competing. There's often times where we go direct to seller and that seller has already spoken to 5 other wholesalers. We have times where we go on appointment and there's 5 contracts set out on the table and you're the 6th one coming in. First of all, normalize that. Nothing's going wrong. That's just real estate. What you need to be thinking about is, what can I do to separate myself from the masses? How do I stand out above everybody else? So I use a lot of strategy to make myself better than everyone else, so to say. And one of the best ways to do that is to use the terms of your contract, the terms of your offer to beat everybody else. So I'll give you an example. let's say that you're talking to an agent or a seller and they've already got offers on the table. They're already talking to people. And now you're trying to compete with everybody else. Well, what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll say, look, I can close faster than everybody else if that's important. I can waive inspections and contingencies if that's important. I can put down bigger earnest money than everybody else, and I can make it non-refundable if that's important. Like I can provide post-occupancy. I can release earnest money early before closing. I can provide services like moving and packing and relocating. Like, what is the need here, and how do I provide a solution? And then how do I do it better than everyone else? That's how you win at this game. That's how we get really great deals, even with competition. Now, if you're not able to do those things, then get yourself to a place where you can. I get it. Not everybody can put down $5,000 earnest money and make it go hard. I'm not saying do that necessarily, but I'm just saying this is one way where you can stand out. Be asking yourself, what are other ways I can stand out? When an agent says to me, yeah, I'm already working with 5 other wholesalers, I'll say to that agent, I'll say, well, how do I become the top one on your list? How do I be the one you call first? What's important to you? What do you want to see? How can I be your go-to? Lose those other guys' numbers and call me. And let me prove it to you. Let me have a shot. Let me show you that we can perform, and then perform. Nothing pitches you better than performing, right? So like, once you prove to an agent that you perform and you get to the finish line, or even sellers, then nothing's going to build your reputation better and stronger and faster. Everyone's going to talk. Hey, Jerry performs. When Jerry says he's going to do it, he does it. Right? So, this is the way that you really establish yourself in the industry. And this is also why I'm a big believer in really building a business in your market, a presence in your market. I'm not a big fan today, I have before, but today, in just like this virtual idea of any market, anywhere, because when you do that, that's fine. You can do deals that way, but you're missing a really key component, which is market presence. Once you have market presence, everybody knows you. And when everybody knows you, relationships equal deals. People call you, they JV with you. People hand you deals in your lap. We have agents that call us and say, hey, this fell through, seller super motivated. Can you step in and do this deal? Well, yeah, here I am. Everyone starts talking. Everyone at the meetups know who you are. Like you start to build a presence, reputation, even online. You start to rank in Google online. There's so much power in doing the groundwork, building a foundation of a presence in a specific market. And then to add on top of that, going on appointment is another competitive advantage. Do you realize that we beat out so many people by going on appointment? Because nothing can perform better, nothing builds trust better than eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly. I'll beat out every other wholesaler that's talking to that seller on the phone when I can sit down at the kitchen table, put my arm around the seller and say, let us help you solve this problem, right? That's going to be way more powerful than anybody can do on the phone. So think about that. I mean, these are some things that you can do to really stand out above the rest and create this competitive advantage. Okay. What's up with the big deal just passed? Sherry Fitzgerald, man, I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but Trump's beautiful big bill has a lot of provisions in there that have some pretty cool advantages to real estate investors and business owners. I'm actually I've done a lot of research on this. I'm releasing a video on Wednesday. Today's Monday. On Wednesday, all about how this impacts real estate investors. Most people don't understand that there's been some changes to section 179, I think it is, section 179 of the tax code, which allows you to write off business expenses. And there's also been Trump's new bill is introducing the 100% depreciation, bonus depreciation, which means qualifying assets, you can write off the entire amount in year one. So that's been brought back, and that's effective January back to, goes back retro to the beginning of January through, I think, 2029. So now you got to understand what qualifies for this. There's a lot of nuance to these things, which I'm breaking it down in this video I'm doing. But there might be some real benefits that some of you can apply to that are huge tax advantages. So pretty exciting. By the way, it mostly in residential real estate, it's going to impact short-term rentals. There's some loopholes with short-term rentals, and there's even some loopholes with long-term rentals, but you have to qualify for those, which is a bit challenging. You have to become a real estate professional and meet all the qualifications. So I'll break it down in that video. If you guys are interested, pay attention for that, but pretty cool stuff. Okay. All right. This is a great question. Jerry, tell me why I should choose Flipster over other software like X Leads, Deal Machine, PropStream, etc. All of this data softwares have a lot of similarities, So going back to a comment someone said earlier, like, it's more important to pick one, commit to it, learn it well, and use it effectively than to bounce around from here to there or whatever. I will tell you that a lot of these softwares out there are just white labels of RealFlow. So there's a software called RealFlow, and they white label. So X Leads is just a white label of that, and most of the other ones that you see out there are white labels of that, meaning slap a different sticker on it and call it something different, but it's the same thing. And Flipster is my own software. We built it. We supply all the data, all the tools, all the resources. What's cool about Flipster is it's really built for wholesalers and flippers. And so it's got a workflow, it's got data, it's got a dialer, it's got VA services. I mean, really, Flipster is like I like to say it's like a Lamborghini that people use like a bicycle, because it has so much to it that most people don't even use it for all of its capacity. So, try it out. We do a free trial on it. It's very competitive to the other plans. One thing that's really cool is if you're a pro or prime member of Flipster, we provide unlimited custom proof of funds letters, which is pretty cool. And anyway, there's a whole bunch of other things in there, but give it a try and tell me what you think, Jeremiah. I think, though, that you'll really like it if you're into wholesaling and flipping. On the flipping side, it's great because we've got a lot of cool tools like budget tracking and fix and flip tools. So it's not just wholesaling, but also fix and flip tools. We got all your digital contracts that come included, deal analyzers, and we're constantly working on it, making it better. I launched it in 2014. So we've had it for a minute before all these other ones even came out, but yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback. Try it out. Yes, I did hear that PropStream bought Batch leads. Now, I know the guys over at Batch. We work with them quite a bit. They did retain Batch data, so they're going to stay in the data game, and they're going to provide. They're going to become a data reseller. In fact, they're providing the data now to PropStream, which is kind of interesting. But they sold their retail divisions of the Batch leads and the Batch dialer to PropStream. So, good for those guys, man. Super proud of them. Congratulations. I knew those guys before they even launched Batch. And so it's pretty exciting. Gets me fired up because, I'm building softwares too. And it's exciting to see that PropStream is investing. And when I say PropStream, it's really Stewart Title, because Stewart Title is who bought PropStream a couple years ago. So Stewart Title, man, they have big vision, big plans, and they're doing some cool things. So yeah, pretty cool to see that. We'll see how that impacts PropStream. We'll see what changes they've made. What's cool is PropWire, my software, we've taken the number 2 spot nationwide next to PropStream as far as like user access and time on the platform and all those things. Not revenue, because we're free, but in usage, we're number 2 in the market. So if you guys aren't using PropWire, you guys really should be checking it out, because you can search and download for free. So it's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, so the real estate dasher said PropStream joined Batch leads. The other way around, PropStream bought Batch. So that'll be merged into the PropStream umbrella. Okay, so Nest Scout says, hey, Jerry, looking to improve my lead gen. What niche list do you recommend starting with? Tax delinquent, probate, etc. Yeah, great question. Okay, so, there are lots of different lead types that we can go after. And, the way I look at it is, the more difficult it is to get access to the lead, the better the lead is. That's a higher quality lead because there's limitations on getting access to it. And the more of a paywall, let's call it, to get to it, the more the better that lead is. So that's why if you go into PropWire, you'll see that we have premium leads. And these are leads that you can only get at the county courthouse. So we manually go in and extract that data. So there's a cost to that. And then we pass that on to you. You can pay to get those premium leads. It's very inexpensive, but those can be fantastic leads because there's less people accessing them. But I've got what I call my gold list. And this is a stacked list. And it's a 5 seller lead or filter stack. So what I do is I start with absentee owner. Okay. So absentee owner. And then I stack on top of that out of state. Okay. Tired landlord, which we just define as they've owned it for, I think, 8 or 10 years or longer. So absentee, out of state, tired landlord, vacant, and high equity. So those 5 things, let me say it again. It's absentee, out of state, vacant, tired landlord, vacant, and high equity. Now that gold list, when you run that in a metro market, like if you go on the PropWire and you put those filters in, you're going to get a tiny little list of maybe 50 to 150, but that's high intent. I mean, there's a lot of filters there. There's a lot of touch points there, motivation type there. And so then that list is a fantastic list to skip trace. Right in PropWire, you can skip trace it and then cold call. And you don't even need to outsource that list because you can burn through, 50 to 150 calls, no problem on your own. And you should be able to pull some deals out of there. So that's kind of my favorite stacked go-to list. And we have other ones too, but that's a good one to start with. Okay. Let's see. Pineapples in LA. Where am I finding the cash buyers? Is this from title companies? Title companies might definitely have access to cash buyers, but the fastest way to get a cash buyer, honestly, guys, is what I do is I focus on getting a good deal, get the good deal. And then I do what I call the neighborhood flipper method. And all I'm doing then is I'm going to look within the neighborhood of where I have my deal. And I'm going to go on Zillow or Redfin or PropWire. And I'm going to search for flipped properties. Now, how do I know it's flipped? Well, it's sold for top of the market. So highest sold homes. I'm going to look at them. Are they newly renovated? Are they vacant and staged? That's a flipper. Then I'm going to call the agent who represented the listing on that flipped property. And I'm going to call that agent. I'm going to say, hey, it looks like you represented a flip over on 123 Main Street. I got a deal right around the corner. I'm looking to sell. Might your flipper be interested in another deal? And then that agent's going to put their investor, they're going to check it out and they're going to see if they want to buy it. I get most of my deals just doing that method. I find if I talk to 10, 12 flippers in the neighborhood where my deal is, one of them is going to want my deal, assuming I have a good deal. Now, if you don't have a good deal, it doesn't work, but nothing does. But assuming you have a good deal, that's the fastest way to find a buyer for your deal. You don't need a list. You don't need anything, just a good deal. Do that reverse engineering model. You don't even have to find the flipper. Just talk to the agent that represented the flipper. And I don't even offer to compensate those agents most of the time. They're glad to do it because they're bringing value to their investor. And they get another property to list on the back end if they buy it. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's a really fast way to find a cash. Okay. And by the way, my back. Hey guys, I think my internet went out for a second there. You guys leave a comment and say, Jerry, I got you back. We can hear you. That'd be great. So I can know. Leave a comment, guys. Say, Jerry, we got you. We can hear you. Everything's good. Are we good to go here? We hear you. Okay. Good. Sorry about that. I don't know. My screen went blank for a second. Were you guys catching what I was saying there about how to find a cash buyer? So, but let's go back for a second here. Let's take a minute here and talk about the philosophy of a cash buyer, finding a deal or finding a cash buyer. Now, I get the argument that there is out there. A lot of people believe that when you're in the beginning, go find buyers first. And then once you have buyers, source and find deals for those buyers. I'm not a super big fan of that idea. I get it. It makes sense, but I'm not a big fan of that. And here's why. if someone calls me up and says, "Hey, Jerry, are you a buyer in Metro Detroit or in Tulsa, Oklahoma?" Yes, I'm a buyer. Okay, Jerry. If I find a deal in Tulsa, Oklahoma, are you interested? Yes, I'm interested. Okay, that's good to know. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, go find a freaking deal. Why are you wasting my time? Don't call me and ask me if I'm looking for deals. Yes, I'm looking for deals. Oh, well, what's your buy box? A good deal, go find a good deal. What am I going to say to you? Oh, I don't do anything under 1,000 square feet. Don't bring me anything pre-1960. I don't like 2-bedroom. You know what I mean? Like, you're wasting my time. Go get a good deal, and finding the buyer is easy. I have 2 rules to wholesaling. Find a good deal, and everything else is easy. That's it, guys. Find a good deal. If there's anything you can do worth your while, go find a deal. And all the world opens up to you. You can find money for the deal. You can wholesale it for a premium. You can keep it, and you've got deep equity now. Like, everything good happens in life when you get a good deal. So stop wasting your time talking to 20 cash buyers. And even if you do that, guess what you have to do next? Go find a deal for them. So you're right back to square one anyway. Guys, focus on getting good deals. Everything you do needs to be high equity. Like, whatever you're doing marketing wise, add the filter high equity, because you want to be able to get a deeply discounted property. They have to have equity. You got to be able to come in and anchor low, offer that cash offer, better be at a big discount. And now you can make money, right? Once you have that. Okay. You guys with me, and everybody with me on that? Does that make sense? I hope that resonates with you. Okay. Let's see. Too far ahead, guys, and missed questions here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I'm just looking through questions here. Jerry, how much is prop wire if you don't get a subscription per flip, and can you choose what age the property owner is? To set up a subscription with prop wire is free. You don't have to pay anything. You can search and download for free. There are other features like premium leads, skip tracing, and other things where you can pay for, like additional services, but you don't need a subscription or anything to get in there and start using it. Okay. Abel said, I lost internet connection when you answered my question. I'm sorry. Can you please answer it again? Just go back, Abel, and watch it again. I think I hit it pretty good. Okay. All right. Jerry, you're here giving us your flowers. You've given the long time becoming millionaire because of you. Thank you. Okay. Joel Polanco says, Jerry, when I first started out wholesaling, I was cold calling, didn't have a lot of success. I switched over to PPL, but I noticed a lot of sellers are saying my offer is too low. Any advice? Well, I mean, your offer is too low is like every day, 100 times a day, like that's normal. Here's how you want to know, you want to find, okay, well, what are the industry standards that I should be hitting per contract per leads, right? So for PPL, we try to be around the 10 to 12, maybe 15 of those leads per contract. And those contracts, I want to be at 25K assignments, So that means if I spend money on PPL, every 10 leads I buy to 10 to 15, 10 if you have multiple exit strategies and you're dialed in, 15 if maybe you're newer and you don't have that many exit strategies, might be more like 15 or maybe even a little higher. But if you're not hitting those ratios, then you need to relook at what you're doing, because you should be pulling out a great deal in 1 in 15 on PPL. Again, if you're not, then you need to look at, okay, where am I breaking down here? What's going on here? And one way to find out, like, man, am I offering too low and missing out on deals, is follow up on all the deals you do. Like, you have the address, go back and see what happened. Did someone else buy that deal? Did it get sold? What did it sell for? How much did everybody make? And the best way to do that is just go back and see what happened after the fact, and you'll get your head around it a little better. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Thank you, Jerry. Just looking through your guys for. Okay, Jonathan Ortiz says, "What's your favorite PPL provider?" This is a good question. There's three. So you've got iSpeed to Lead, you've got Lead Zolo, and you've got Property Leads. And I'm sure we'll see more come out in time. We're using all three of those, and sometimes we land really big ones on one, sometimes on really big ones on the other. I know for Mark in Tulsa, we just got a $25K assignment deal on a property. Sorry, guys. I don't know why my internet's glitching. Drives me crazy. So I don't know what, here's what I would recommend. Each of the three big providers are a little bit different in how they operate and what they do. If you've got budget, I would be trying all three. I'd put a little money in all three of them and see what works best for you and your market, but they all work. So, you just got to be consistent. You got to be really good with your processes and make sure you're capturing that lead right away. Okay. Currently have a property under contract for a sub-2. I'm planning to keep it. What servicing company do you recommend in Texas? Oh, geez. I forget the servicing company. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head who's best in Texas, but reach out to some other sub-2 people, or if you guys know, if you're in Texas right now and you're doing sub-2, who you guys use, and put down your servicing company. You definitely want to be using a servicing company though to manage the payments. Curious to get your take. This is Lisa Sosa. How do you feel about seller carrybacks, aka the Morby method, as a strategy in today's market, especially as a way to acquire with little to no money down? I mean, if you're acquiring using creative finance and there's equity in the property, then that Morby method, which Morby method is simply taking a first position, it could be sub-2 or seller financing, and then with all loan. So you're creating a seller finance loan in second position. So you got the first position loan, could be seller financing or sub-2. You create a second position seller finance loan for some of that equity. And that can be a way to get you to no money down, right? If you do that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you get no money down, because you could put a seller second in place and the seller still want you to put money down. They still want a down payment. So it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could mean that, but it doesn't mean that necessarily. So, it's just another way to put deals together. I just look at it like one more tool in your toolbox. If you're doing creative financing, then typically you're going to run into sub-2, seller finance, or a hybrid of the two, which is where you're doing a second position loan for equity in the deal. That's going to make up 99% of all creative finance deals, is one of those three. Probably 80% of them are sub-2 and seller finance. Okay. And if you don't know, sub-2 is when they have an existing loan. Seller financing is when they own it free and clear. They sell it because they have a loan in place and the value's higher or closer to the value, and there's no room to sell it for lower. Even if they wanted to, they can't. That's most of sub-2. But every now and then you'll get a high equity deal. So there's a loan in place, but there's a ton of equity, and the seller's not going to, the seller wants some of that equity, and rather than pay that equity in cash, you can create that second position loan. Okay. Okay. Hope that answered your question. Okay. Let me get down here. Okay. Put your questions in, guys. I'll see if I can get to them. Yeah. Jerry on that McDonald's Wi-Fi. No kidding. My curse in life is crappy Wi-Fi. I don't know what it is. The Wi-Fi gods just don't love me sometimes. Okay, you guys can hear me. Yeah, it's cutting in and out. Sorry about that. Okay. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna tell Anne-Marie. If everybody can get off the Wi-Fi. Okay. Bagmon says, how do I know if it's a good deal for the flipper? Is there a % return that flippers are looking for? Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, guys, the model of wholesaling is, what do cash buyers want? What are they willing to pay? How do I find deals that meet their buy criteria and bring those deals to them? That's what we do. That's our job, is to find and source deals for cash buyers that want to flip them or hold them as rentals. Those are the two primary buyers that we service: flippers and buy and hold investors. So if I'm going to be bringing deals to flippers, what is the criteria they want to see? What's the buy price they want to be at, so that when I bring it to them, it's a deal and there's room in there for me to make my money. So whatever they buy at minus my wholesale fee is where I want to land at with my contracts. So how do you know what flippers want to pay? You got to learn that. You got to find out, okay, there's some general rules. Like, generally speaking, if you take 75% of ARV, after repair value, subtract out the rehab cost, minus your wholesale fee, equals your buy price with your seller. That's a general rule, but that's not hard and fast. That's market specific. Maybe some markets are paying 70%. Maybe some markets are paying 80%. We talked about this in the beginning of the show. You got to learn this. This is your job as a wholesaler, is to learn what buyers want and bring it to them. And so that's your job. Figure that out and then go. Yeah, Emmanuel says, are you sure you're not in Costa Rica? You mean Puerto Rico? Yeah, I'm not in Puerto Rico. Might as well be with the internet. Okay, are you open to have the Flipping Mastery Inner Circle a challenge like Paces No One Left Behind? Yeah, we do some challenges here and there. I'm not totally sure how that one works, but yeah, definitely. Breon Mitchell says, finding good deals is like trying to find good women. Takes some effort. I tell my adult kids, you can't find the girl of your dreams if you don't date. You can't marry someone if you're not dating. Like, you got to date a lot of girls to find the home run girl, right? So, don't settle, put in the work, go find good deals. All right. Monster Kid says, Jerry is so sexy. And well, thank you. Appreciate that. I try. I don't try. It just comes natural, I guess. Okay, we're back. Zach Ward says, Jerry, I need to close 50K in deals by September 1st. I have from 12 to 6 every day to cold call. How do I get it done? Well, I mean, it's great to have a goal, great to have a deadline there. And if you've got 12 to 6, it's plenty of time. You're talking a good, 6-7 hours a day cold calling. I mean, if you've got no budget and you're doing the cold calling, that's not a good use of time. Think about it. A cold call agency, like I use Run It Remote. If you guys want, I can give you their contact info. Their callers that are trained are $6 an hour. Back. Yeah, what I was saying there is, these agencies that have overseas callers, they're like $6 an hour. So if you're cold calling, you're actually doing $6 an hour work. Trust me, you are worth, Zach, more than $6 an hour. So with Run It Remote, that's the agency I use. For a full-time cold caller, 40 hours a week for a month, costs you about $1,300, $1,400. It's very inexpensive. Now that cold caller that you hire, they should be able to generate 1 to 2 warm leads a day. So let's call that 50 a month. You should be able to close 1 in 50 deals in a month. So if you've got $1,400 that you can pay for a full-time cold caller, in the next 30 days, you should be able to get a deal. And if that deal's a $15K deal, then, you close that deal 30 days after that. We're already in July. So if you're trying to get this done by September, you might need a handful of cold callers to be able to get to 50K in assignments. That makes sense. I think you're probably going to need 3 or 4 cold callers. You're handling all the warm leads. That should be able to get you 3 or 4 deals and get to that 50K by September if you're just doing cold calling. Okay. Now, again, I'm answering your question, just cold calling. Okay. Jerry's buy box, a good deal. That's fun. Breon Mitchell said, hate when investors want low down payment, low entry, cash flow, then complain about 10K assignment. Yeah, I see it a lot too, where it's like, hey, I want to get into the deal with 0 down, 0 interest, 3% interest rate, all this. And that's the kind of deal I was, but that's a needle in the haystack type of thing. I mean, get real. Most sellers are going to want some skin. They're going to want you to put some money up front. That ensures them that you're serious, that you're not going to walk when crap hits the fan. You're going to stay in it and see it through. So, go for it. I get it. Like, offer 0 down. That's fine. I do that. But know that if you're going to end up doing deals, you're going to have to put some money down and structure a normal deal that makes sense for everybody. Having said that, my goal with creative finance is a 10% entry fee, maybe 15% max. If I can put a deal down at 10% to 15% total entry fee, including wholesale, then I usually have a good deal that I can move. Okay. Jocelyn Spook said, hi, Jerry. Crystal ball question. Should my wife and I purchase our first house in Puget Sound area? Not sure where that is. At 6 to 7%, or wait 6 to 12 months to see if prices go down. I mean, prices may go down. Interest rates may go down. This is our first house. So I think I'm assuming that this is your primary residence. When it's your primary residence, that decision is driven a whole lot more on your life decisions in your life circumstance than it is about interest rates or market, where the market's at, up or down. I don't think that's the way you want to look at that. I think you want to look at it like, well, where are you at in your life? Does it make sense for you? Are you relocating? What's going on outside of that? This is your primary residence. This is where you're going to live. That needs to be the driving factor, not can I get 0.5% lower on my interest rate, or, is the market going to drop 5%? I'm going to wait. I don't ever wait on life choices. I do my life choices now, because it's my life. It's how I'm living. That has to take precedence. Everything else will work out. So I don't know. I mean, I certainly think that, let me answer this a different way. I think we're going to see rates come down. There's a lot of talk about that right now. Trump's pushing hard to lower rates. So I think we're going to see some rate drops coming. And I also feel like the market's correcting a bit. I think we're going to see some slide in market. I mean, all the predictions are that there's more inventory than buyers, and we're going to see prices slide a bit. And I'm noticing that. So, you certainly could get a better deal in 6 months from now if you wait. Okay. Hood Poppy. Your guys' YouTube channel names crack me up. Jerry, how can we get Earnest due after the inspection period when the agent is worried about besmirchment. Okay. Hood Poppy, I'm not following your question here. How do we get earnest money due after? Maybe what you're talking about here is if you're going on market, you're going to have to put earnest money down. Most agents are going to require that it's at least $500, $1,000, maybe higher, depending on the market and the price point. One way that you could do this if you don't have the earnest money is put in your contract earnest money due after inspection. So if you have a 10-day inspection, you don't have to put the earnest money down until after that 10-day inspection. Now, everybody's got to agree to that. The agent and the seller have to agree to that. They don't always agree to that. Why would they? Maybe they will, and you could certainly try, but just know that not a lot of agents are going to go for that. Why? Because they're locking the property up for 10 days with no skin in the game. And so, we see it all the time. My students do it all the time. It's not that you can't do it. Just know that that's a challenge. That's all. But then what would happen, assuming you could get that done, is then shop your deal to your buyers, get your cash buyer to put down the earnest money that meets your earnest money obligation, and you never had to do earnest money. That's kind of the idea there. It's how do I avoid earnest money? But listen, guys, earnest money to me is one of the secret sauces to getting good deals. Borrow the earnest money if you have to. Put down significant earnest money, because that's going to put you in the front of the line when you have good earnest money. So that's why I like to come in. I call it hot and heavy with my earnest money. I'll tell agents, look, I'll put $5,000 earnest money down, and they're looking at other offers that have 500 as earnest money. So who do you think, if all things are equal, who do you think is going to get the deal? Jerry with a 5,000 earnest money or Joe Blow with a 500 earnest money? I'm going to get the deal because I'm a stronger offer. I use earnest money to leverage my offer. I don't compromise on price. I'm not doing that. I'm leveraging the terms of my offer instead of the price to put myself in the front of the line. That makes sense? Okay, Jaquin, sorry if I butchered your name. Armillo. There seems to be an influx of transactional lenders in the market as a whole. Do you feel that a transactional lender is useful to wholesalers as a whole? The reason why you're seeing that spur is because of regulation. So regulation is coming in, mandating licensing and other things. So what's happening is people are using double closing as a loophole to some of the regulation. So I'm not doing an assignment, I'm double closing, therefore I don't have to follow these regulations. And some states that certainly can be the case, but that's not how we're seeing regulation lately. Most of the new regulations coming out are finding a way to close that gap on double closes. But to answer your question, that's why you're seeing that. And by the way, we have a transactional funding program. We call it 100% funding. And we do your first one for free. And then we lock you in at a 1% fee after that. So it's pretty cool here. You can go to, let me look up the link to that. But I've got a link where you can learn more about how to do that if you're interested in transactional funding. I think, though, it's a great idea. Have a transactional lender in your back pocket, because some deals just make a lot of sense to double close. It just is a way better way to do it. Let me look that up real quick. Oh, it's usejerryscash.com. So if you go to usejerryscash.com, then you can register for training. We show you all about how to get that funding, and you get the first one free and then locked in at a 1% rate after that. So it's a pretty good deal. Okay. Constance, what's the best way to find a good deal? That is the issue I'm having currently. The properties I have found, my buyers are saying they need to be like $100K less for it to work. Okay, so Constance, it sounds like you're locking up deals, over contracting, taking it to market. Everybody's saying way too high, go get a lower price deal. And that's very normal, by the way, Constance. In the beginning is learning how to underwrite properly and learning how to get deeply discounted deals. And a lot of this is a mindset thing. Most people are afraid to low anchor. They're just afraid. If the seller says, I'd like to get 180, they're afraid to say, I need to be at 80. They're afraid to do that. They don't do that. So then they end up overcoming. I have no shame in it. I'm not afraid one bit to say, hey, you know what? I know you want 180. I know that's what your neighbor's house sold for. I know that's what Zillow says it is. But, for me to come in with all cash and close in a couple weeks as is, and make this super fast and convenient for you, this needs to be at a discount. I can provide that for you. How bad do you want the solution? If you want the solution right now, then I need to be somewhere in the 80 range, and then be quiet, see what they say. You know how many deals we get doing that? And then when they say, well, I want 180, I can't go down to 80. That's way too low. I'll follow up and I'll say, okay, well, how close to that can you get? And they'll say, well, I might be able to do 100. Okay, let's do 100. I just went from 180 down to 100 and I got a great deal. You know what I mean? So learning how to do that process. I have a lot of videos where I teach that low anchor process. It's one of the most fundamental skills to learn in this business is how to offer low enough and get those great deals. Motivation surfaces. The motivated sellers they'll come out. They'll come out of the woodwork, but not if you don't identify them. And the fastest way to identify a real motivated seller is with a low offer. Now you'll see where they're really at by putting that low offer in front of them. Okay. But that's a broad question. Like when you say, how do I find a good deal? That's like asking Michael Jordan, how do you dunk a basketball? Where do I go? How do I start there? A good deal is defined at a deeply discounted property off of the value. That's what we do as wholesalers. Our job is to go out in the marketplace, find distressed sellers, offer a deeply discounted offer, and the ones that are motivated are going to say yes because they want the speed and convenience that cash offer provides them. Your job is to talk to enough sellers to where that happens every day. And if that's not happening to you every day, you're not talking to enough sellers. There's two things you got to do: lead gen and quality conversations. You have no control over whether or not a seller is going to say yes to your offer, but you do have control over how often you give sellers the opportunity to say yes to your offers. So generate leads and get on those phones and talk to a lot of sellers. Go on a lot of appointments, talk to a lot of sellers, and you'll be doing a lot of deals. Delton Cashflow Roy says, I want to have a question, but all your videos answer all the questions I didn't have and more. Well, thank you, Delton. It's true. By the way, guys, there isn't a single question you could possibly come up with about wholesaling and flipping that I don't have a detailed video that addresses that question in my channel. Because I've got, I think, 3,000 videos and I hit every single topic imaginable. So, go into my channel, go to the search and search, put your questions in, and I've got a video that deep dives that question. Okay. So, do your work. It's all there. I don't hold back. I'm one of the longest standing YouTube channels in the industry, 500,000 subscribers. I've got the answers for you, but just go in there and find them. Okay. Mark says, Jerry, tell your story again about how you were always off on your numbers and what your mentor told you about your offer price back in the day. Yeah. So this was a story I told Mark, my partner, Mark. This was years ago when I was, this is probably 15 years ago or so. I was in Metro Detroit doing a lot of deals, and I hired a coach, someone really successful that I admired quite a bit. And I was on a call with my coach, and I said to him, I said, look, I just feel like I'm 10 grand off on all my deals. I go into the deal, I do the deal, and these were flips at the time, I think, that I was talking to him about. And I said, I just somehow I'm always 10 grand off on my margins, on where I want to be on my profits. And he says to me, he says, Jerry, what you need to do is you need to run your numbers like you normally do. And then whatever number you think you want to be at, offer 10 grand less. And I said, I didn't say this. I'm thinking, because he's super successful. I'm thinking to myself, that's the stupidest advice I've ever heard. If I could get it for 10 grand less, I would. There's a reason why I'm at where I'm at. And so I kind of was like balking at it. And he said, Jerry, just do it. Commit to the next 6 months, whatever number you come up with, go another 10 grand lower and see what happens. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do this. So I did it. And here's the thing. I got just as many deals, but I got them on average 10 grand less than before. Why? Just because I was willing to offer 10 grand less and walk away. I was willing to walk. I was willing to say, okay, it doesn't work. All right, I'm out of here. Wait, Jerry, let's get the deal done. There's a mindset shift that happens with offering low prices. If you're afraid to offer low, if you're afraid to walk from skinny deals, if you're afraid to not hold out for that good deal, you've got a mental issue, and that's a scarcity thing going on. Abundance says there's more than enough deals for you. You deserve big fees. You deserve big profits, and you're going to go get them now. And you're willing to hold out for those good deals. Why? Because you think abundantly. You know there's a better deal around the corner. Scarcity says, I better take this little tiny deal and make $2,500 wholesaling it. That's a scarcity thing. You got to work through that. That's not a market thing. That's not a pricing thing. That's a you thing. Work on that and get over that. Okay. So Robert Draper says, Jerry, your Washington State video on the new wholesale laws was unbelievable. Oh my gosh. That is probably the most unconstitutional law that I've seen yet. So if you guys don't know, I did a video about this, but Washington State passed a law that basically says all buyers, I don't care if you're an investor, it has nothing to do with wholesaling really, any buyer in the marketplace, you have to have real estate representation. If it's a non-listed property, so if it's a private sale property, not publicly listed, the seller has to be represented by an agent, or you, the buyer, have to be represented by an agent to do that transaction. That's what they said. And they said the seller has the right to an appraisal. If they decide to do an appraisal, you, the buyer, have to pay for the appraisal. And when the appraisal comes back to the seller has 4 days to cancel the contract. Are you kidding me? So what? What are you going to do as a wholesaler? Buy $500 appraisals left and right just to have sellers shop you or cancel contracts? It's nuts. So it's forcing, this is a backdoor approach from NAR to force everybody to get real estate licenses. How can you force the private sector to use licensed agents? That's what they did. They're forcing the private sector to use licensed agents to transact. And it passed. It's law. It's in effect. Well, it goes into effect, I think, January 1. Well, welcome to Washington State, guys. Asiatic World TV, Asiatic World TV said, if Jerry's internet is glitching like this, I should be able to get my first deal. No excuses. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Let me see here. This is from Netsu Sellarch. I'm looking to connect with a disposition wholesaler who is actively doing deals in New Jersey. Well, you're coming to the right place. This is Squad Up here. Anybody in Jersey? Raise your hand right now. Who's in Jersey that's doing dispo? I mean, we'll nationwide dispo. So if you reach out to us, if you got a deal and you reach out to us, we can help you with that. You can go to dispowithjerry.com. If you're in my Finder program, we'll buy those deals. If you go to my10kcheck.com, you can learn how to be a direct finder for me, and we'll do those deals. So you got lots of options. I mean, don't let that hold you back. You got to get out there and network, look for those active wholesalers that do dispo in your market. So you can do that. Okay. So Ishmael Aguilar says, been solely focusing on iSpeed. That's a PPL provider, iSpeed to lead. Anyone interested in my affiliate link for them? Chat's not yours, because that's how this goes. No, but they're great. I think over there they want to work with investors, so they grow quite a bit through affiliates, so it's a big deal. Will there be an app for Flipster? We actually are building an app right now. We're hoping to launch end of summer for PropWire. So we'll see. Maybe we'll build one if there's enough demand for Flipster. We might do that. But we're pretty excited about the PropWire app coming out. So be on the lookout for that, guys. Okay, Hidger, how do you handle sending a contract to seller when they do not have an email and are out of state? Do you just send a notary out to them? Yeah. So Ishmael Aguilar also asked, I read it kind of quick there. It says, how do you handle sending a contract to a seller when they do not have an email and they're out of state? Do you just send a notary out to them? Yeah, that's one way. You can do a traveling notary. We'll go meet them there and you can sign that way. I usually find boots on the ground, somebody that's in that local market that I can reach out to that can help me out and go over there and get that done. But yeah, I mean, if they don't have email and you're out of state, you're going to have to, you can mail it to them, but I'm going to have somebody at their front door in an hour because time kills deals. You wait till tomorrow, next week, you might miss out on that deal. Okay. Yeah, Alexis Calderon said, how do you feel about cold calling in today's market for new leads? We talked about that earlier. Guys, cold calling's back on. Cold calling is going to become a viable strategy, I think, because of the new this new ruling on this court hearing that happened in Arizona. Federal court case ruled that in this district court that cold calling does not violate the TCPA laws because we're offering to buy a property. We're not offering to sell a product or service. So that's how they ruled that, which means you're going to see, I think you're going to see a lot of these crazy litigators go away because the fines were $1,500 per call. So, and the average settlements were in the millions. I mean, it was a big deal if you violate that TCPA law. So it scared away a lot of. So at the beginning of the year, it kind of killed cold calling with that TCPA law. So I'm glitching out again, guys. Sorry. Yeah, but cold calling, I think, is going to be back on as a strategy. Yeah, so Mark kind of put in the chat here a little bit of the difference between the different PPL providers. iSpeed is best if you want to select your own leads based off of information. iSpeed is really good if you're nationwide because they just do broad marketing. So what iSpeed does is they tend to provide leads all over, so you can go in there and pick leads in any market, which is really cool. Lead Zolo is great if you're in a specific market because you can set up bids and you can buy the leads, and there's some science to that, but that's great. And okay, we're back. Property Leads is the most expensive probably because they're doing PPC. So they're not doing social media lead gen, they're doing PPC lead gen. Okay, please anyone over service account. Okay, hello to the channel. Oh, so Nolam Properties. Hi, Jerry. Love the channel. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. How lucrative is this market compared to Arizona in your eyes? Just curious. So Nolam, reach out to Mark. We'd love to work directly with you, help you get your feet under you, move your deals, whatever. We're very active in the Tulsa market. So reach out to us. Just contact Mark Gabriel. He's in the chats right now. Okay. SJT, I currently have a property under contract, but I can't find a buyer for it. My buyer at 150 dropped out. Do I cancel contract? I have a month left. Okay, well, I mean, if you had a buyer at 150, there should be another buyer at 150. Like I would be making that your top priority. I would be really pounding the pavement. You got to find another buyer at 150. Unless that 150 over contracted for a specific reason and 150 is not a good deal, and that's why they backed out. You need feedback right now. Like, why isn't it moving? What's your buyer saying? If you talk to 20 buyers and you ask them, hey, do you want this at 150? And they say no. And you say to them, well, why? And what price would it be a deal for you? And they say 140, and you get 140 across the board as a deal. And you say to them, well, if I can bring it back to you at 140, will you do this deal? And they say yes. You need to go back and renegotiate with your seller and see if you can get it down lower. Right? I mean, those are your choices. You either find a buyer, you renegotiate, or you cancel. Those are your only options. Okay. So Netsu Sellart says, would you wholesale on dispo? Take that deal to market and dispo your creative finance deal. Heck yeah. Workshop. When going direct to seller and seller wants to stay in the home for a month after closing, what's your process? Do you do an escrow holdback? Of course, yes. And it better be significant. You do not want the seller becoming a squatter in your property. So we do occupancy, post occupancy all the time, but we're going to hold back significant proceeds from closing. And it better be 10, 15 grand. Don't make it $1,500. and then they don't get the release of that until they leave after that month or whatever you agreed on. Okay. And I actually have that rent back agreement. If you guys want, I can give you that, just DM me or something. I can give you a free rent back agreement form that you can use for that, but definitely do a holdback. Okay, Jerry, would you be interested in homes, land in Fargo, North Dakota? Are there are people in Fargo, North Dakota? There are investors in Fargo, North Dakota. I did not know that. I'm just kidding with you, Brett. Yeah, a deal's a deal as long as the numbers make sense. I don't probably won't be super interested in taking that deal down, but if you've got a great deal there, we're happy to help you dispo it. Okay, Zach, where Jerry, I need to close 50K. Okay, we talked about that one. David Hefner, what to do when agent ghosts you? Do you go behind their back? Well, so if you're talking to an agent on a listed property, that agent has a listing agreement with the seller. So if the agents ghost you, then you can't go around the agent to the seller. They have a contractual agreement with the agent. Now, what I've done before is I've gone to the seller and I said, hey, your agent sucks because I'm trying to make an offer on your property and the agent won't contact me. What are you doing? Talk to your agent and tell them to talk to me because I want to make an offer. I've done that before and that can happen, but it's not like you can call up the seller and say, hey, your seller sucks. You and I, let's work out a deal, you and I. Okay, how are you personally adjusting repair costs for expensive markets like Boston, LA, and so on? We might bump stuff a little bit, but I don't really do. Home Depot's Home Depot. Like I find that I can find pretty much consistent labor across the boards and materials across the boards. So, there might be a little bit more of a premium, but the premium's more in the price. Okay, we're back. If I'm doing luxury flips, that's a whole different change the way that you estimate. So, but if you're at a normal price point, then I don't really care what the market is. I'm going to be pretty consistent with my budgets. Okay, Devin. We've got Devin, Prolific Homes, Florida, working on a luxury home lead where seller said her broker advised $100K of repairs for a $2 million ARV. His estimate is 1.4. She wants to sell for 1.1 and be done with it. What should I look out for in luxury? Well, I can guarantee you right now that it's more than 100K in repairs. If you're talking a 2 million ARV, let me know, Devin, the square footage of that home. But 2 million ARV, we're typically spending 250 to 300 in repairs just to do surface stuff, just to go in there and do appliance, counters, cabinets, floors, paint, surface stuff where you're easily spending 250. So, make sure you get your head around the right repair number. Bro has a wife and 10 kids on the Wi-Fi. They actually said they're not on the Wi-Fi. So I don't know what the deal is. Just internet not working with me today. I hope you guys are still getting a lot out of the show. If you guys are getting a lot out of the show, even with the glitchy thing, let me know. Leave a comment. Let me know, because I'm about to smash my computer. Okay. I'm looking for I'm going through the questions here, guys. Jeremiah Boyer says, I found 12 flippers in my area using the Flip Properties filter on PropWire for free. Yeah, guys. One of the filters on there is called Flip Properties. and it will give you a list of all the properties that sold within a 2-year period. Now, not all of those are technically flips. Some of those could be like just transferring from one LLC to another. They're just deed transfers. So definitely go to the history and take a look at that. What you're looking for is somebody bought it and then 6 months later sold it for, twice the price. That tells you it was a flipper. And then you reach out and contact those agents that represented those flippers. So yeah, super powerful using prop wire to find your buyers. Okay. Yeah, Jeremiah, I'm going to read your comment here. He says, dispo is easy if you have a deal. We call that an investor party or an open house. And we open up a time frame. We get all our buyers in there. I want to create an auction environment, a frenzy, and that drives price up. If you've got a good deal, dispo is easy. And the better the deal, the easier the dispo, because everyone's fighting over your deal. I hear you about getting buyers what they want. Can you elaborate more? What's the best method to get some buyers, not investor lift? Yeah, go back and watch the show. I covered that a couple times. Some of the best strategies I use for finding your buyers. And again, I've got a lot of videos that show how to find buyers for free on PropWire and other methods, that work really well. So pink tube socks. Pink tube socks. Hey man, is it worth it to invest $168,000 in a flip? They shat all over the walls. Okay. Pulled out plumbing, knocked out half a wall, and took all the copper wire. Repair estimate $200K. Okay, so here's my input on this pink tube socks. If you're not very experienced in the rehab game, do not do that deal. Because 200 grand can easily turn into 300 grand and you lose money on your deal. That's a nightmare. Extensive rehabs are not for the faint of heart. If you're going to take on a flip and you're new at it, take on a cosmetic rehab, something that needs carpet and paint, maybe kitchen and bath, something that you can get your head around, something that's easy to bid, easy to understand. Not a full gut like this. Those turn into a nightmare. They're a nightmare even after having lots of experience. Like I still have challenges doing big projects. It's hard to keep the budget because as you're rehabbing, you're uncovering more problems, unless that 168 buy is very deeply discounted, then even then I wouldn't do it. Wholesale that to somebody that's got experience, make your quick fee and move on to easier deals. Okay. You'll tie up so much time and energy and bandwidth on that deal. It will bleed you dry. That's my recommendation. Okay. Cleophas Clancy Jr. Hey, Jerry, I'm working on a deal and need to know how to either get an easement on a property or check if it already exists. What's the best way to go about doing that? We'll call down to the zoning department. They'll tell you. Just got to get a hold of the building department, talk to zoning, and see what they're showing for easements and stuff. I would worry about the VA stealing and selling the leads. Yeah, that's not gonna. I mean, they're a cold calling agency. That VA is getting, $6 an hour is a markup because the agency gets paid out of that. But whatever they're making, $4 or $5 an hour, they're living, in the upper class in Egypt or the Philippines or wherever they're at. They're not going to screw this up. They don't want to lose that job. The last thing they want to do is steal your leads. What are they going to do with them? They don't know what to do with them. They're following a script. They're just pounding the phones all day long, doing the work that you and I don't want to do. That's all they're doing. Okay. No one's back there like, oh my gosh, wow. They talk to a super motivated. All they're doing, by the way, is they're saying, do you want to sell? Great. What's your address and phone number? I'm going to have someone get a hold of you right away. That's all they're doing. So they're not even gathering enough information to really steal anything. What's going to happen? The cold call agency is going to be like, ooh, that sounds like a good deal. Let's steal that deal. I mean, so I don't think that's something to worry about. And we're back. You know, I wonder if I close down some windows, if that'll help any. I got like 47 windows. Guys. All right, let's see if that helps. Okay. So we've got about 10 more minutes, guys. So let's see if we can get through some more of these questions. Alejandro Menendez Vaga says, do you think all the new laws and regulations coming for wholesaling will affect land? No. These laws only apply to residential housing. You know, this is a consumer thing. This is a consumer protection thing. This isn't a land. This is land, which might be a good reason to do land, but it doesn't apply to land or commercial. Jeremiah says you're about 500 questions behind. Sorry, dude. This first come, first serve here, baby. Better get here early and get your questions in. Okay. How do I submit properties due for consideration? Go to my10kcheck.com and register for a training on how to become a finder for me. That's the best way to get us on your deals. Do you have a tutorial on how to use PropWire? Yeah, go to my YouTube channel. I've got dozens and probably hundreds of videos showing exactly how to use PropWire to get deals, find buyers, and all the other things. Definitely. Okay, Jerry, what are your thoughts on nationwide vacant land wholesaling? I mean, nationwide anything is challenging. I know very few people that are good at that. RJ Bates is really good at that. Maybe some of his students, but when you go nationwide, you tend to have a high contract fallout rate because, you don't know the market. And so you think you contracted a good deal. You don't know now till you go to Dispo. You find out on Dispo that you're on the wrong side of the street. You're next to a homeless shelter, whatever. And then you have to cancel a lot of contracts is what I've seen quite a bit of. Now, again, you can do it. You can get really good at it, but you better be very, very proficient at, going in random markets and being able to get to really good values. Okay. Understanding values, comping properties. Okay. Jerry, why would a seller who has high equity take a wholesale deal? Oh my gosh, dude, this is distressed seller 101, man. A distressed seller would rather have equity, cash, than peace of mind. They would rather stop the bleeding, liquidate the cash out of the deal, then continue owning that property. They want a solution now. They don't have time. They don't want to list it with an agent, have showings, feedback, inspections, appraisals, financing. They don't want all that. They want an offer now. They want cash now. They want speed and convenience now. Why does somebody go into CarMax and walk out of there with a check knowing that CarMax is paying less than if they went on the open market and sold it themselves? They don't want to do all that. They just want the money today. Same thing with wholesaling. Same thing with distressed sellers. Here's the number one rule that I would say to you. Stop trying to put yourself in the seller's shoes. Stop trying to understand the logic behind a seller. Just know that sellers are highly motivated and will sell at deep discounts, and you got to find them. Okay, can anyone help, please? I'm trying to save my portfolio. Yeah, I'm not really sure about how to save your portfolio. Okay. I got a few minutes left, guys. So I'm gonna try to skip through. I'm gonna try to see if I can find like maybe a good one. Promissory note for EMD. No one's going to want a promissory note for your earnest money. Earnest money is you're putting some skin down, right? You're committing yourself to the deal. Come on now. Let's see. Jerry, I want to join your 10K funding. So my finder program, go to my10kcheck.com. If you want the transactional funding where we'll fund 100% of your double closings, that's usejerryscash.com. So two different programs there that you can check out. Okay. Boy, some of you guys keep putting the same questions in. This might be a good question to end on. Jerry, I heard you mention several times today. This is Mike Lee. I heard you mention several times today about using PPL. Is PPL the best avenue to getting deals quicker? Okay. I mean, we're only talking about PPL because people are putting questions in about it. PPL is pay per lead. It is a more expensive marketing channel. You better have your processes dialed in because you're going to be spending money on these leads and you better know how to convert them. Okay. So if you buy a $400 lead, that's a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing, right? So it tends to be a little bit more advanced. You can be somewhat beginner, but there's easier ways to, to break into the industry. I recommend going with free and cheap methods first, transact a little bit, then move into the better, more higher quality leads like PPL and PPC once you've got some experience. Okay, so remember, think about it. Everything's developmental. When you come into the business, you don't know what you're doing. You need to focus. It's going to be agent outreach. It's going to be cold calling. Once you've done some deals, reinvest that money back into marketing. Once you got your processes in, you've got some transactions under your belt. You feel comfortable on the phones, comfortable analyzing, comfortable comping, comfortable talking to sellers, comfortable making low offers. Then, and you've got a little bit of budget now that you've saved up through your previous deals. Now start to spend some money on the high intent stuff, which is PPL and PPC. That's the logical way to transition into your marketing. Okay. Peggy Stevens says, don't do deals in Washington State. No, do deals in Washington State. Just go get your license and then self-represent. That's what I think you do. Self-represent, get your license and self-represent. Now you're the buyer. Buyer has representation yourself, or get someone on your team to do it, or align yourself with an agent. If you get licensed, then join my team where I'm at Real Brokerage. You can join my agent team. We're super investor friendly. And the best part is Real doesn't charge commission splits on wholesale transactions. So you can keep your wholesale fees. Okay. It's a licensing thing. That's all they're after, forcing you all to get licensed. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Ginger says, appreciate you, Jerry, keeping your finger on the pulse on each state, new rules and regulations. Guys, there's a couple more I'm watching right now that are coming out. They're going to keep coming. Okay. Come on, guys, we can get one more here. Let's see. Oh, let's end with this one. Jerry, can you talk about using AI and if you're using it in your business currently? Guys, AI is completely changing the game here. You've got to be learning how to use AI. We're implementing right now AI. We're aggressively creating AI tools. We're going to be rolling out some really cool things that are going to allow you to do a lot more in the business, faster, easier, cheaper using AI. And we're developing some really cool things because I think you're going to have to understand how to use AI to do a lot of the tasks, especially the menial tasks, faster and quicker and easier. So yeah, I mean, we're developing a lot of tools. So stay tuned to that because we're going to be rolling some of those things out. And it's going to completely change the game. I mean, it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs. It's going to eliminate a lot of low level of tasks. And those that learn how to use it to their advantage are going to rise above the rest. Everyone else is going to get pushed aside. So if you're worried about AI, then I would be putting some effort into learning how to use it effectively in your business. Okay, awesome, guys. That's a wrap. Was really fun to be here with you guys. Sorry about the glitchy thing. And please come back for more. Make sure that you're subscribing to the channel. Also, Pace, Jamil, and Brent Daniels. Awesome dudes. Love those guys a lot. And every Monday night, join us. Love to spend time with you guys. Hope we got through a lot of your questions. Thank you guys for participating. Sure appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one.